What's up YouTube, Webberz05 here, coming at you today with a continuation in my top 10 series. This next one was also requested by Dark84. This is my top 10 most hated monsters. Now before I get into this list guys, I mean absolutely no offense to anyone who uses these cards. My own reasons are because of personal experiences of what these cards have done to me. And that is my only reason of why I dislike them. Okay, so first off at number 10, I mean absolutely no offense to the Dark84 for being the instigator of why I dislike this card, but my number 10 choice is Rainbow Neos. Personally guys, I have nothing against Rainbow Neos on his design or how he works. I have nothing against Rainbow Neos on his design or how he works. I think he's very interesting. I think he's very cool. He was very awesome in the anime as well, which I really liked. My personal reasons of why I dislike Rainbow Neos is because of one specific game I've had with Dark84 that kind of just sticks a little bit in my memory. So I was playing a game of Cyberdarks versus Rainbow Neos. Game went on for a bit. Dropped my Cyberdark Dragon, equipped it with Malefic Truth Dragon for a huge attack buff. And no, guys, just take a naturally wild guess of what he did to me. He used the third effect of Rainbow Neos, milled the top card of his deck, put my entire graveyard back into my deck, which subsequently removing a good chunk of my Cyberdark Dragon's buff. And then do you know what else he did? Just to add insult to injury. He twin twisted and took out my equip card, leaving me with a single 100 attack buff. Richie, it's one thing to just get rid of the graveyard to drop my attack. But did you really have to do that at the same time? Why didn't you just shuffle my monster back into the deck? For that reason, guy. It's not so much that, guys, that I dislike him for shuffling away my graveyard. He just did it in such an insulting way. I mean, you could have gotten rid of the Cyberdark Dragon by shuffling it away. Why do that to me, man? What? But again, purely dislike it because of that one instance. Other than that, Rainbow Neos, very cool card. I do kind of slightly dislike that he's now easier to turbo out with the release of the Neos Fusion spell card, but it's alright. And I'm interested to see what Dark Magician's Rainbow Neos deck will do with the new support from Power of the Elements. Okay, moving on to number 9. This is one that was also called by Dark Magician as the card that he knew I would hate. It's Legendary 6 Samurai Cheyenne. Now, I personally don't have a huge amount of experience playing against 6 Samurais, but I distinctly remember the first time I played against 6 Samurais. It was at an anime convention I went to with one of my best friends. I faced this girl who was playing 6 Samurai. I had like no experience with the deck. It was just swarming stuff and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And when I tried to stop it with a battle trap, just like, negate. I'm like, that's so unfair. Like, it's one thing for Cheyenne just to negate my stuff, but 6 Samurai as an archetype, they're just so oppressive and horrible. It was not fun to deal with, and it still has not been fun to deal with in the future. I mean, I don't play too many 6 Samurai players as of more. I mean, I haven't really played against too many 6 Samurai in the past few years, but still, that memory kind of just sticks in here. And that's why I dislike Cheyenne. But then, like I said, I think pretty much most Pendulum players will dislike Cheyenne and anything else that negates spells. Okay, moving on from there, my number 8 choice. This may seem a bit of a random one, but my number 8 choice is Earthbound Immortal Cocaria. So my reason of this is because of when I was in like secondary school, I did play Yu-Gi-Oh with my friends at a club, and one of my best friends, he was a huge fan of the 5D's era and the Earthbound Immortals. He would alternate between Earthbound Immortals in his deck, and he found his two best ones were Earthbound Immortal. Sorry guys, I've got confusing names. Chakuchalua, the whale, and his other choice was Cocaria. Cocaria has been an absolute pain in my side anytime I face Earthbound Immortals. Like, the Earthbound Immortals, they're not so bad to deal with, but I find my personal hatred towards Cocaria because there's just no easy way to deal with that besides getting rid of the field spell. Because with Cocaria's effect, if he dies outside of his own effect, he just nukes the board of everything. I just had no safe way of getting rid of Cocaria, and at the time when he was using it, this was like pre-XZ, so I didn't have things like Castell or Honorok to get rid of it without destroying it. It was not fun. Still not fun. I mean, I own a copy of the card. It looks very nice in Ultimate Rare, but still not a fun card to deal with. Okay, and on that note, moving on to the number 7 choice. My number 7 hated card is First of the Dragons. This might seem like another random one, guys, but during after Ignite format, because at its release, First of the Dragons didn't really do anything because nothing was really had the ability to play it. My issue with it was shortly around, I think it was after Clash of Rebellion format, when Ignites got released and they started being played more at my locals. Like, Ignite players were just teching this with Fusion Substitute just as a way to protect them, to keep themselves away that they basically just can't die. And whenever somebody dropped First of the Dragons on me, I'm just like, I'm so stuck behind this card. I just can't win out. It's just one of those cheap stall tactics that makes it really difficult to win the game. The only reason I'm not ranking this card higher on the list is because I remember one tournament I was in where I just kind of semi-looped my opponent working around their First of the Dragons. Because, guys, naturally, First of the Dragons has the effect it can't be destroyed in battle with an effect monster, and it can't be destroyed by the effect of effect monsters. So, as a Pendulum player at the time, it was very difficult for me to get around it, and at that time, none of my monsters really had the ability to get rid of it, so I just went for kind of abusing the system with Pendulums that, back in the day, you could summon as many as you wanted back from the extra deck. I decided to, because we did have the first Pendulum structure deck, so I had access to Synchro monsters. So basically my tactic of getting around it was Synchro summon it into Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend, Pendulum summon a few monsters, effect of Scarlight, nuke my own monsters, and then just burn my opponent each turn. First of the Dragon may not have been fun to deal with, but hey, Scarlight was a great way of getting around that. And so guys, moving on to my number 6 choice. Some of you might be thinking, as a Pendulum player, this card should be higher up on my list, but I found some pretty easy ways of dealing with it earlier in the day. My number 6 choice is Naturia Beast. Naturally, as a Pendulum player, I completely dislike this card because of its ability to completely shut me out of playing spells. However, I don't feel I can rank it higher because there was a point in Pendulum, because with the structure deck, we got Dragon Pit Magician, Dragon Pulse, the level 4 Vanilla Earth. And also, Glow Up Bulb was still legal back then, so Pendulum Magicians actually had the ability to play Naturia Beasts, and I will admit, guys, I did play it for a very brief bit. It was just a really good tactic dealing with lots of decks, so I just went with it. And the only other reason it's not higher up on the list as well was because at the time when it started seeing like proper more play, when Pendulums became more serious, I had a lot more easy ways of just dealing with it. Because around the time when it did start being used more was around Breakers of Shadow format. So Breakers of Shadow, we got the release of Timebreaker Magician, so I had the option of going into him, using his effect, target itself, target the Nat Beast, banish both, then I'm free to play spells. And frankly, the other reason I haven't ranked Nat Beast higher is because back in that day he was so easy to get rid of, because I just activate a spell to bait it, Naturia Beast changes effect. Because Naturia Beast states it has to stay on the field to resolve its effect, all you had to do was just drop a Ghost Ogre on it, and then boom, that's your problem solved. And for that, that's pretty much the only reason Nat Beast isn't ranked higher on my list, but he was still the absolute bane of Pendulum in the day. And on that cheerful note, moving on to number 5. This number 5 choice is from Shining Victories, and it's Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. So as much as I dislike Naturia Beast because of its ability to stop me from playing spells, which means it would stop me from from putting pendulums up on my scale, I dislike Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon a bit more because he restricted me on how much I was able to summon. And personally, I found that much more annoying than not being able to play spells. Because, as I said, I had ways of still bringing out multiple monsters without a pendulum summon. But Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon was just an oppressive way that I couldn't pendulum summon whatever I want. I had to choose one monster, and sometimes that one monster wasn't enough to get around a Blue Eyes player, which made it extremely difficult to play around. And then also his other effect that he could just tribute to tag out. So even if I found something to get around the Spirit Dragon, they're like, okay, cool, if you're going to get around my Spirit Dragon, I'm just going to get rid of your resource anyway. Effect, tribute itself off, and they either go into an Asia Rise to protect their monsters from card effects, or the other thing players were doing back then was tribute hit, summon Moonlight Black Rose Dragon, and then just bounce the monster that you summon, and then bounce the monster that you were going to smack over it with. That was such an annoying card to deal with back then, and I honestly still cannot stand it today. And on that note, number 4 choice, this is a very old one from back in the early days of when Pendulum format started. Well, not when it started, it was like the second set in, and that is Stella Knight Trevor. So Talonites were an absolute huge deck back in the day, and Trevor was one of the absolute pains of not just a Pendulum player, of every player's existence that wasn't playing Talonites. Because Trevor on summon just bounced the entire field back to the hand except for itself, which was both annoying for the person playing opposing the Trevor, because we lost everything we had. And then Trevor's got its second effect of detaching a material to rip a card out your hand, which was also not fun. But it's also not fun because with Talonites, they played things like Call the Haunted and Oasis of Dragonstalls to summon back their monsters to keep doing their combo. And because monsters use its Xyz material don't count as leaving the field, the cards just lock in place. And then Trevor just basically got those resources straight back, which is so unfair. So yeah, it was really not a fun card to deal with back in the day. I was very pleased when Talonites seemingly just kind of shifted out of the format. I don't really remember why it shifted out of the format though. I don't think it was... I think part of it was because when Tolmaeus got banned. But that being said, Tolmaeus got banned because of the synergy of people using it for Cyber Dragon Nova into Cyber Dragon Infinity. But I don't really think Talonites used it too much for its own effect, so kind of confused why they kind of shifted out of the game. But I'm not complaining because it means I didn't have to deal with Trevor anymore. Okay, and now moving into the top 3. So at number 3, this is perhaps one of a lot of people's love-hate cards, but in my opinion I just really dislike it. It's Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. When this card came out, the number of people that were just spamming this thing and being an absolute pain with its disruption was absolutely horrible. When I was seeing this, everyone was just seeing this everywhere, and it was so annoying, so oppressive, and it had so much stupid synergy with the Artifact Scythe and several other things, which was just not fun to deal with. Though as of and then when Konami noticed it was a problem, they decided to do absolutely semi-nothing about it by putting Fusion Destiny to 2. Did that help? No, because Anaconda still existed, so it was still ridiculously easy. I only felt better about DPE once Anaconda got banned, and pretty much no one was able to spam it easily. I mean, I also am slightly hypocritical partially about this because there was a couple of tournaments when I was playing DPE in Endymion because I was just getting sick of everyone doing... I was just getting sick of everyone doing it to me, so I just thought I'd give people a taste of their own medicine, but I didn't feel good about it. I essentially took DP straight out of my deck afterwards. And then more recently, I've actually gotten rid of my DP completely, sold it for some stuff that I needed. But yeah. DP has not been fun for the game since its release. Okay, at my number 2 choice, this is a card that's still giving me problems today, but only every now and then depending on my matchups at my locals, and it's Dinomorphia Rexstrom. That card is just so irritating because my problem with it is it just locks me out of doing my monster effects, which is so irritating. And Dinomorphia, I understand their gimmick, paying half your life points to do stuff. It just gives you as a player, you think paying half your life points to do something, it's like, that's a dangerous tactic because you're leaving yourself very vulnerable to die. But the Dinomorphia have such oppressive effects, the paying half your life points really doesn't affect them at all, and it makes it so difficult to play around. With Endymion, I still can't figure out the solid way of how I'm supposed to deal with Dinomorphia. I don't think I've actually beaten Dinomorphia with Endymion yet at a tournament, and Rexstrom is essentially the reason why, because I can't figure out what is the best way to do it, because if I can't activate any of my monster effects because their attack stat is higher than my opponent's life points, and then Rexstrom is just pay half, make your opponent's attack, the attack of all your monsters equal to their life points, and then you just can't use anything. So it's so irritating to have to deal with, and I can't figure out a way around it. During one of my more recent tournaments when I played Odd Eyes actually had a pretty decent out to it, because I had the option of Odd Eyes Persona Dragon, so all I had to do was play 2 of them at once, activate the effect, try and negate it, when it chains, chain the other one, and then boom, can't do anything. So that was pretty useful, but still, Rexstrom is not been a fun card to deal with. But that being said, despite the fact I do severely hate this card, I do rate its artwork, it is quite nice. And so from there, guys, we're now moving into my number 1 choice. So I've stated quite a few cards that are used within the meta, a lot of cards that have proven giving me loads of issues throughout my ability to play my strategy right. And for those wondering if my top hated card in the game is Dragoon, you would be wrong. Dragoon's semi-honourable mention. I didn't really have too much of an issue with Dragoon because at my locals, very few people were playing Dragoon. Very few people were playing Dragoon because nobody really had it. I think we only had one player playing Dragoon, and that's simply because he was in fact playing a Red Eyes deck, so I can't argue with it for that reason. But no, guys, my number 1 choice is the card that's still giving me so much issues in tournaments. It's the one reason I cannot beat this deck in a tournament, because it's so good because if they can get 1 game on me and then we go into time, I just pretty much automatically lose. If you guys haven't figured it out yet, my number 1 hated card is Sword Soul Longwan. This jerk has been burning me in time so frequently, I cannot stand Sword Soul as an archetype. Whatever Konami was thinking, giving them this option that just a free burn on your opponent, and a 1200 burn at that's a stupidly high amount of burn. It's ridiculous. And on top of that, because of its leveling, and it activates in the hand, you just summon it, synchro off into Baron, and because naturally, as I said, they're going to synchro into a Baron with the long one, even if you want to try and respond with something to stop that burn effect, if you're going into time and you respond to the burn effect with your opponent's probably just going to use the Baron and be like, negate, so you still burn. Yeah. Long one, not fun. Can't stand this thing. Really would like to see this go. I would really like to see Long One get banned. But let's be honest, it's probably not going to. And on that note, guys, that is my top 10 hated cards top hated monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought of the video, and also feel free to post some of your most hated cards if you feel like it. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.